Hey everyone, welcome back to Wine Tip Tuesday. Little different. I don't have a glass in my hand today because we're going to talk about residual sugar. So, where to start? Residual sugar is grape sugars that are left over in the wine after it's been fermented. So, in winemaking, you press your juice, you add yeast, yeast eats the sugar, creates alcohol. So the standard thought is that the higher the alcohol, the lower the sugar. So residual sugar is measured by grams per liter. So anything that's like 1 gram or less per liter is considered bone dry. 1 to 17 grams of residual sugar per liter is dry. 17 to 35 is considered off dry. Above that you get sweet and then very sweet. So here at Harper's Trail, all of our wines are dry. After saying all of that, it's not to be said that you're going to find a wine that has high alcohol, like say 14.5%, and you might have a residual sugar on it of 19 grams residual sugar per liter. And you're wondering how that could happen. So that is when, in the winemaking process, sugar actually gets added to sweeten it. You'll have some sweet reds. Reds are typically fermented out to a drier side. You know, ours have ranged anywhere from 1.5 grams residual sugar to about 4, depending on what the grape is, the Brix, which is the sweetness level when we pick, but we don't back sweeten or add any sugar to our wines. It's often done in a bulk situation, a bulk wine situation, where maybe you're trying to even out the acidity or pump up the berry notes in your wine. The best way to judge it is to go to the website of the wine you're purchasing, and most quality wineries will have what's called a tech sheet. If you click on the tech sheet, it will tell you the amount of alcohol, it'll tell you your residual sugar, RS is how it's labeled on the tech sheet, and all the nerdy stuff like the pH levels and the total acidity levels of when the grape was picked. But what you're looking for is RS, residual sugar. So you want that sugar to be lower if you're looking for a dry wine. So for instance, if you've come to Harper's Trail, our Pinot Gris usually hovers in around 1 to 1.8 grams residual sugar per liter, but it doesn't hurt. I like to tell people that the acidity in there is nice and bright, it's clean, it's fresh, it's crisp. That's what a dry wine is like. If you've had our Silver Main Block Riesling, which is super popular, and it can hover anywhere from, in the past, 10.5 grams residual sugar all the way up to 19.5 grams residual sugar. And if you drink it, it's not sweet. And we have, when we drink wine, our palate, it's difficult to judge sweetness due to other things that the wine brings forth, whether it be acidity or tannins. And the Silver Main Riesling is a perfect example of that acidity. So if you've been here and I've done a tasting with you on the bar, or any of our girls really, they'll say to you, think of a really ripe, like Granny Smith or Mac apple, like that juice that runs when you bite into it. That's what the acidity is offering to kind of mellow out the sweetness. So, you know, if you want to be sure and you can't find a tech sheet, buy quality. If you're paying anywhere from like $9 to $12 for, you know, an Australian wine or a California wine, typically it's bulk, and typically it tastes the same year after year, and that's because there's a recipe for it. They're specifically taking it down to a dryness level, adding the sugar, making it taste the same all the time. We often get asked that on our tasting bars, oh, this doesn't taste the same as last year's. It shouldn't. A good quality wine should never taste the same vintage after vintage. It should be fresh, bright. It should be similar, but of course the robustness of the grapes being a year older, the weather, the sweetness level at which they were picked, that's all going to play into a good quality wine. So residual sugar, if you can't find it on the tech sheet, you have a good quality bottle of wine, the higher the alcohol, the lower the sugar. If you're going to get a wine like a Riesling, a good German Riesling that's sitting at about 9% alcohol by volume, you're looking at probably an off-dry Riesling, probably, you know, hedging into that 20 grams residual sugar per liter. So that's a really good tip. Other than that, look for the tech sheet on the winery webpage, or, you know, when you're finally out able to do tastings, that's a question you can definitely ask at a tasting bar, and they should be able to help you out with. So until next week, we're going to talk wine faults. You guys get out, enjoy this weekend coming up. It's going to be beautiful, and keep an eye on our social media, particularly at harperstrail.com, Instagram, Facebook. We're gonna be opening soon, you guys. Limited hours, limited days, but you're gonna be able to see our smiling faces again. We're looking forward to seeing you. Until then, cheers.